Thank you, David. Uh, hey, everybody. Here we are. What a brilliant show we've had from all the way through today. And thank you, everybody. And it's just overwhelms me to be here in the company of such a fine collection of poets. For Spoken World Online, week number 318, Cinco de Mayo, 2026. I'm going to read from Roarshock page, one of my California street sketches. And this is the old town and the new city. The eastern end of California Street from Market Street to Van Ness Avenue is one of the oldest and archetypal streets in San Francisco. 19th century photographs looking down California from Nob Hill preserved the view of old San Francisco, evolved from the frenzy of the gold rush into the Paris of the West. There are other haunting photographs of the Great Fire in the rubble after the earthquake of April 18, 1906. The dark forms and silhouettes of people standing on Nob Hill watching as the old city burned. In pictures from the following days are seen the stunted, burned out ruins. The fires burned 4 days and nights, and much of the city from the Embarcadero to Van Ness was destroyed. The famous view from Nob Hill looking down California Street was documented photographically all through the 20th century and on into the 21st, showing the new rebuilt city and how it continued to change and grow over time. The fashions worn by pedestrians in these pictures captured their moment, as did the styles of automobiles and outdoor advertisements. But the one consistent sight was the California Street cable car line running up and down and over the hill between Market Street and Van Ness Avenue. For decades, when his window was open, DA could hear the sound of the cable rolling in its loop under California Street. He could hear the cable cars going by and the ringing bells. Functionally, one bell means stop, two bells means go. And when the gripmen played jazz with their cable car bells, DA, if he was feeling uncertain or downhearted, always felt better and connected by climbing up onto a California Street cable car and reflecting as he rode through the financial district and up the hill that it was certainly one of the world's great job commutes. The Southern Pacific building at 1 Market Street across from the cable car terminus at the east end of California Street was a big landmark and time marker in the photographic record of the rebuilt city. There were some low-rise post-earthquake buildings that had survived through to the 21st century. The CD block on the west side of Drum between California and Sacramento being an example, and made more jarring by the luxury hotel across the street and the skyscrapers and roof gardens of the Embarcadero Center marching up the north side of Sacramento Street. Some other buildings remain that had been new in 1907 in the early years of rebuilding, interspersed with the much taller buildings and skyscrapers added over the decades. Schroeder's restaurant on Front Street, originally in business since 1893, was a traditional German beer hall, aged smoke on the walls, adding to its patina of authenticity, and not necessarily improved when the hall was cleaned and brightened by new owners in the early 21st century. Tadich Grill at 240 California was the oldest operating restaurant in California, having come in with the gold rush in 1849. Regardless of the year or century, Tadich Grill always looked the same and exuded an essence of classic San Francisco. More modern skyscrapers included 101 California Street, a faceted cylindrical tower, 48 stories tall and encased in glass. It was completed in 1982. DA remembered well the horrific event that occurred there on the afternoon of July 1st, 1993. It was sunny and warm, and he was enjoying the ride on the cable car down the hill. His daughter, BR, was attending summer camp at the Embarcadero YMCA. He was on his way to pick her up. The cable car stopped abruptly at Battery Street, and the crew said they were not going further, but they didn't say why. TA got off and walked the rest of the way. There was not any commotion of which he was aware. On the contrary, it was an exceptionally quiet Thursday afternoon in the financial district. He was walking along the Embarcadero when he heard sirens wailing. After picking up BR, they walked back along the Embarcadero through Justin Herman Plaza and caught the One California trolley bus on Sacramento for the ride back up the hill. They did not see the zoo of a crime scene that had unfolded around 101 California, where a crazy man had opened fire with multiple guns in law firm offices on several upper floors. What triggered the rampage was never determined. The gunman had only one previous contact with the firm 12 years previously. In a typed letter left behind, he claimed to have been poisoned by monosodium glutamate, among other complaints. The spree ended with the gunman's suicide as the San Francisco police moved in. Of his victims, 8 were killed and 6 others were injured. It was an early and shocking example of a modern gun massacre and led to new federal legislation, the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. The new law didn't entirely work. Sadly, many more mass shootings occurred around the United States in the years and decades that followed, the carnage becoming nearly routine, and the shock to the public sensibilities apparently dulled as the incidences multiplied. In later years, the A laughed privately at the irony that the plaza in front of 101 California was one of the stations of stupid in the annual April 1st parade, as described in a previous California Street sketch. Reputedly, the tomb of stupid. What happened high above in July 1993 was an extreme act of stupidity cloaked in evil madness. A space can be reclaimed, regardless of what heavy energy might previously have engulfed it. On May 18, 2016, DA again was on the cable car riding the running board, and the car was full with an Italian tour group and a beautiful, slim, dark-haired woman leading the tour, pointing and shouting out landmarks to her group in Italian. The car stopped before Battery. Among multitudes of San Francisco police, the police line made DA cross to the north side of California at Front Street. He walked to the middle of the block and looked across at 101 California Plaza and saw Bernie Sanders, candidate for United States president, standing on one of the plaza's ziggurat structures, delivering a stump speech to a union demonstration. He soon concluded, and DA watched the senator make his way back to California Street, where, with great deliberation, he walked across the street directly up to DA and shook his hand, and then greeted some other folks at the sidewalk. On his way back down the line, he offered his hand again, which DA shook a second time. "Keep going, man," DA said in encouragement. "We will," the candidate replied, and continued down the block Jane Sanders passed by, and DA was happy to greet and thank her. At the end of the block, surrounded by Secret Service agents, the candidate turned and looked back at DA, who made eye contact and nodded in affirmation of support. With that, Bernie Sanders climbed back into his SUV with his wife and all those agents and cops and cars and on motorcycles, and they sped off to the next stop on the trail. It was it was as remarkable and unexpected as anything DA had experienced on California Street. What was most amazing was the immediate and sympathetic connection he had felt at his chance meeting with a man who was a serious contender for President of the United States and a catalyst for much needed progressive change in their country. Bernie Sanders had approached DA not as a potential political ruler, but respectfully as a valued fellow citizen. And in the immortal words of John McMullen, thank you for putting up with me.